Hi everyone, I'm Lee from Sit Stay Explore, and here is your booked solid micro training. Let's get into it. So one of the things I often get asked as a full-time sitter and as an adult educator is what's the trick to being booked and to getting a preference with your sits? Now, a lot of these skills are soft skills and are skills that they take a bit of time to build, and I think there's a lot of information out there about the sort of things that you need to do as part of being a pet sitter. But whether you're thinking about pet sitting, you've just started out, or you're more experienced, what I'm going to present here are some really neat little soft skills that I think you'll find are really useful and that will essentially increase the probability that you will be selected as a sitter, particularly in areas that are hot for sitting, places that you also want to maybe explore yourself as a solo traveller or as a couple, and I think you're going to enjoy this training, so let's get into it. So one of the things that support this training too, I forgot the slide came up first, is that I've provided a comprehensive PDF download that you can access. So relax, enjoy the complimentary training, and then head to our sitstayexplore.com/booked solid, and you can download the PDF companion that supports this training. So your application game, be the easiest, yes, the best approach when applying for advertised sits. So in the pet sitting, I'll give an example. The last two sits that I applied for, even with my experience, I was actually one of 4 in both instances. Both homeowners had shortlisted to 4, and I'm sure there are lots of reasons why I was selected. I think as a single woman, I think there's a certain degree of reliability. Homeowners feel safe and secure having someone like me as a solo woman in their home and looking after their pets. And so that's a big factor and something that I think played a part. But I think also too, it's some of the soft skills that I'm going to share here that make a big difference. So this particular kibble size bite is specific to as you apply for a sit. So really important, when you're applying for a sit, make sure that you use the pet's name. I've probably seen fewer than probably 10%, probably even 5% of sits that I have applied for where they haven't mentioned the name. Always make a reference of listing details. So if they talk about the fact they want you to water their plants and they've got a beautiful garden, or they've got a few fish, or collect their mail, or whatever, it's really important that you don't go into overkill, but you say I'm really keen, happy to water your plants for you, things like that. And then mention the location thirdly. What I see with the sitters that I work with and help them with building their profiles, I do one-on-ones where I review people's profiles for them for less than the cost of a night's accommodation. So feel free to reach out if that's something you feel like you might be interested in. Mention location last. A lot of people go, I really want to sit in X. Now, homeowners don't like to think of themselves as a hotel. Obviously, there's a great opportunity for people to, it's one of the things I love. I've saved a lot of money over the last few years because of the fact that I sit full time. But I sit because I really love it, and I sit in all sorts of probably quite obscure places as well as some really beautiful places. So mention the location last. Don't make it an emphasis in your application. Really focus, and if you also notice that the owner has been quite, really mentioned the importance or of their home, and you can see they're really house proud, then it's really important that you would emphasise that as well. But ultimately, beyond home security, people have you in their home to look after their pets. Equally, I also get booked for people where I sit just their homes, because I have, sometimes they go, well, look, actually, we decided we're taking the dog with us. Can you still sit for us? And of course, that's something I do as well. In terms of, you'll see that I've used it as an example there. So beyond just using the 1, 2, 3, also make a reference, something like, I noticed you mentioned your spaniel gets a little anxious with new people. I've worked with a few gentle souls like that before and always take my time settling in. Now that is actually something that I actually wrote in an application. So that's an example from a sit. And it's really true. Homeowners like to know that you have the potential through your approach to connect with their pets. So remember, personalise properly. Number 2 is mirror their tone. So in the ads, and I say again, this is a mistake a lot of sitters make. You still have to be you, but I look for things like the sort of language they use. And I'll tell you what, the double space return in between paragraphs is a classic way that a lot of people, particularly of my age, use to communicate, because we're not modern and we don't run everything all together and we don't use little short sentences. We use paragraphs and we separate them with a double return. Now, if your homeowner uses that style, I would advise that you mirror that style as well as their tone, and use language that is still your own language, but that if they are more formal in structure, then make sure you are too. Owners' advertisements or messages are going to clearly communicate who they are, and subconsciously their tone also reflects what they expect from you as a sitter. So it's really important that there's some great examples that I use in the PDF download, which you can get from, which I'll show you in a minute, where I've taken examples from genuine ads, and these are sits that my people have applied for, the people I've worked with on their profiles, and they've been able to mirror the tone while still being authentically themselves. So that's a really simple but important communication tool. Number 3, use calm, confident language. Now, I'm a bit enthusiastic, so you'll see I've actually put, instead of I'd love the opportunity or I hope you'll consider me, you'll see I'll be delighted to care for Gus. Now, again, this is something that I have used in one of my own examples. I use the word delighted. It's my language. It's how I speak. It's my enthusiasm. It's who I am. If you are more quiet and reserved, then don't use words like that. You can still mirror them and their tone as suggested in the previous slide, but you don't have to use languaging that's not your own. Use calm, confident language. It reassures homeowners, and it helps you establish yourself as quite a natural fit for the sit. Offer gentle reassurance. Now, if it's your first few sits, don't panic. You can still show that you're thoughtful, present, and tuned in. And people are actually, you can demonstrate your experience in other ways that homeowners will resonate with and will respect. So you can try something like, while I'm new at a formal house sitting, I've spent years caring for animals through whatever your related role. When I first started sitting, I had been editor of Dog's Life magazine, I had owned a grooming parlour, I had shown dogs, I had owned pedigree cats, I had worked as general manager for Riding for the Disabled in a Horses for Therapy situation. So I had lots of baseline skills. If you don't, that doesn't matter either, because you may be a mum and you may be a carer, but there will be things in your profile that will stand out to a homeowner. They're not looking for someone who is necessarily uber qualified. So don't feel that you have to front up with a CV that's chocker full of experience. Just state it like it is and capture the things that are real about you. And you'll see at the bottom there I've said that that's grounded, real and trustworthy, and that's what homeowners want ultimately. So now an action step. I'm going to move myself. I'm going to grab myself and move myself down here. Get myself out of the way. So what I now encourage you to do is to follow this action step. Have a look at the most recent application that you've made, either through one of the platforms, either reaching out through messaging. Sometimes it's more formal, sometimes it's in chat as a side group. And using the template resources that we've got, redraft that application using those 3 tools that we shared as part, or 3 or 4 that we shared as part of those soft skills that will improve your resonance and fit with the homeowners. Now, next we're going to explore the trust factor and how the language you use can either build connection with homeowners or push them away. Again, you'll find all the free tools at the www.sitstayexplore.com/solid. So that's all there for you, and you don't have to sign up, you don't have to do anything, they're just sitting on the page, so just go and grab them. Right, trust factor. So we're assuming now that you booked the sit. So what I've done with these trainings is given you a little glimpse into each of the different aspects of sitting. So we're going to assume that you've booked your sit, and some of these you'll be able to incorporate into your intro letter and incorporate within your interview. But this is when you're starting to move through the process, and there are some tips there too about what to do as part of that process. Okay, now one of the key things is reliability is massive for homeowners. They want to know that you are reliable. That's really important. So show that you think ahead. And you can do this again through languaging. I always confirm sit arrival a few days before. Talk about being contactable and responsive. Now these languaging cues lowers homeowners' anxiety immediately. You've got to remember, homeowners are inviting someone who is essentially a stranger into their home. So one of the things that I do is quite often I'm booked well in advance. Like now I'm potentially booked so I'm booked now about 10 months ahead. What that means is I have to, and I don't have to, but as part of that, I just every month touch base with my homeowners and let them know, still on track, looking forward to it, etc. So that is something that's really important. They need to know that they're not going to get on their plane and you've pulled the pin, on the day that they're about to leave or whatever. So confirm your reliability through your languaging, and if you're not sure what that looks like, again, I've got some resources in the PDF that you can grab. Again, calm language. Instead of I'd love the chance to explore your area, and we touched on that briefly in the first training component, because use things like I understand how important it is to feel confident leaving your home and pets in safe hands. That's exactly the peace of mind I aim to provide. Again, this is taken directly from a sentence that I used as part of moving through the initial interview or through the initial letter application where I approach them. Sometimes obviously get homeowners approach me and then I kind of jump straight to this. So it shifts the focus from your excitements to their reassurance all the time. Everything you're doing is about reassuring them. And again, that's things you can do is and share a micro story of responsibility. Now you'll notice here I said it's not a brag, it's just a quiet, this is how I operate. So again, this is a quote that I've used. One couple I sat for had never used a pet sitter before. I made sure they felt supported from the start, and they told me afterwards it was the first time they'd truly relaxed on holiday. True story. So straight away, they're seeing that you're delivering this service for others. Now, again, if you haven't sat before, it could be, I regularly look after my friend's cat, home, garden, and one of the things she knows is that I'm so reliable, she can go away and relax, and she comes home knowing that everything's going to be in place. So, or demonstrate other degrees of your responsibility, even if it's not in the pet sitting realm. Right, okay, and here's the thing, I think it's really important. You don't need to prove you're perfect, you just need to support homeowners to feel safe. And that kind of needs to be in the back of your mind when you are working with your homeowners. People are incredibly trusting, if you think about it. They're trusting you with their most precious possessions, and I won't describe animals as possessions, but you know what I mean, their pets, who are often extremely important family members, and then one of their biggest financial assets, which is potentially their home, and their vehicle, if they're giving you a vehicle so you can get the dog down to the beach or whatever. So you need to use languaging throughout this whole process and provide structure that shows homeowners and demonstrates so that they know that they are relieved to have found you. Thank goodness we found whoever, your name, because they're amazing and we just feel so safe and confident about our holiday. And I get this a lot, so I know these soft skills are really important. So, a bit of a job for you to do. Pick one phrase in your current, so now go to your sitter profile. If you haven't got one, because you're not working from a platform, I still recommend you write one, because that's really helpful for you to send to people as part of this process and as early in the process as possible. So you should still have one of those words. It's ideal if you have a sitter profile or an application message that's ready to go and that you can tailor. And I want you to have a look at one, and if you haven't got one, create one using or rewrite it using trust language. then come back to our Sit Stay Explore Facebook group, and I'd love for you to share your insights and how you've shifted the needle for you, because your help will also help others. And remember, we're international, so this is not a competitive space, this is a collaborative space. So next we're going to cover ways to present yourself confidently and professionally as a pet sitter so homeowners see you as someone they can trust. Again, trust, trust, trust. You see it coming through all the time. The professional edge, what sets you apart? Okay, so that's something, even if you, so there are two types of pet sitters, of course. You've got paid or unpaid in exchange for accommodation. So everything I'm describing here is applicable whichever camp you fit in, because it's going to help you get booked whichever way it goes. Essentially, this applies to everyone. Everyone has pet sitting. And it's also a great thing for homeowners to understand too, so that if you're also sometimes the shoe's on the other foot and you're a homeowner, it's helpful to know this, because actually if your pet sitter isn't demonstrating this naturally, it could be from a lack of experience, but actually also too it can actually mean that they are less experienced. Right, have systems. Really important. Again, I've provided, in the resources I've provided those. And what's happening with my screen? Hopefully you can see it all and not the end bit. So, confirm dates in writing. Send a friendly, looking forward to meeting you message 48 hours before. What I always tend to do is keep my messages on the platform that I have booked the sit from. Otherwise, you can be chasing through emails and chasing through messages. And then once you're in the sit, what I usually do is swap over to WhatsApp. And with WhatsApp, you can, and then that way you're in direct communication with the owner for the duration of the sit, and then move back onto the platform again as part of the communication. Now this is really valuable. It gives you an easy to follow paper trail. Really important. So having a few systems is good. Check in briefly during the sit with a reassuring photo or two. Now I get owners who really, I've got owners who are on cruise ships, so they're simply out of contact and they don't really mind what happens so long as I'm happy, they're happy. I've had owners say, don't contact us, we're on holiday, we trust you, you know, contact the emergency contact if anything comes up, otherwise we're sweet. Whereas there are other homeowners who get a bit, you know, who are uncertain if you aren't communicating with them every couple of days. So that's something that's probably the most important question you can ask is, how often would you like updates? And even if they say don't care, sometimes they're just, you know, they haven't actually thought about it, but always make sure that it's at least once a week. I've sits, like I say, you've got a 14-day sit at homeowners who said don't bother contacting us. I made sure that I got in touch with them, just went, hi guys, checking in, halfway through, everything's good here, gave them a bit of an update. So these simple systems set you apart as someone who takes this seriously and lovingly. And each of these demonstrate your professionalism without you having to say a word. Think ahead. Okay. These are probably some of the most important things, and there are others, but a lot of homeowners don't actually, they're like, oh no, we don't need a contract, we don't need this. And I'm going to do another training specifically on some aspects of that, but for now we'll just stick here. Always make sure that you have vet preferences or emergency plans, and if you're walking dogs in particular, it's really valuable to know if they have any quirks on walks. And things like simple home maintenance. Okay, who do I contact if a pipe bursts? Now, pipe bursting is far less I use that as an example. It's obviously only relevant if you're somewhere where it gets really cold all of a sudden. And also too, owners will quite often, once you start this line of questioning, will do things like, oh yes, and a fuse box occasionally blows, but here's the fuse wire, or just talk to the neighbour, he or she will come over and fix it for you. Quite often it will actually stimulate some thinking for them, and actually you end up getting more information that will often be valuable. Stuff you often don't need to implement, but still stuff that's really handy to have. And so again, you'll note here I said these aren't alarmists, they're thoughtful, and they position you as a sitter who doesn't just cope, but that you lead. And that's really important. People want to know that they've got people who can make decisions. And sometimes, as a sitter, if you own your own home, even if you're renting, if you're managing a home, one of the things is you have to manage all these things. So being a homeowner, or even, you know, that's helpful too. So you'd be amazed at all the different assessments homeowners make based on our own personal circumstance. Right, maintain the energy of the home. Now this is huge. You're not just looking after pets and plants, you're holding the feeling of a place, that daily rhythm, those little routines, the sense of calm. Homeowners feel this when they walk back in the door. One of the absolute key things I look at when I go into a house is the kitchen. Now, the kitchen will tell you everything about how somebody likes to run the house. And a really clear bench, a really clean bench. So what I quite often will do is just take a photograph of where everything is. So, and quite often these are, well, I'm looking at the kitchen I'm managing at the moment. The homeowner is really pristine in their kitchen. So when they come back, it's going to be exactly the same as it was when they left. And this gives them, again, a sense of calm when they walk in. So that's something. You're maintaining the energy of their home. And that's a really important thing to just think about, again, have in the back of your mind. Right, your action step. Create a quick checklist for yourself, a simple flow where you can follow on every sit to help you arrive, communicate and leave like a professional. Again, I've included a template in the PDF if you'd like to start there. Some of it will be too much, some of it will be too little. Completely change it to suit your own flow, but it's really helpful just to have a bit of a plan. And I created a checklist because I was always doing things like leaving my chargers behind. It sounds like a silly thing, but actually, and that sort of stuff matters for you in terms of the practicality of not finding yourself at the other end of the country and you think, gosh. But having a bit of a checklist that you run through in terms of how you leave the home and how you also take your own products out is really important. Right, so what's next? Essentially, I'm going to run around here. Head to sitstayexplore.com/book solid. I'm also going to put this up on our Facebook page, so and as I said, I'd love for you to go and share any thoughts you have about the training as well. I've got a really cool downloadable PDF workbook and some extra tools that'll help you with this task, with this training. And yeah, that's about it. And if you need any other support at all, this is complimentary trainings. These are complimentary trainings that I provide as part of lifting the standard of pet sitting so that pets in particular are well looked after and that homeowners are delighted. I'm Lee and thank you for taking time and viewing my training.